This week, Speed just stepped into some wild, dodgy territory because he's now being accused of being a Chinese spy and spreading propaganda. Speaking about China, I got banned on TikTok, and the reason why is genuinely concerning. The United States has begun arresting and deporting students for one very controversial reason. Myanmar was hit with a massive earthquake, and honestly, the before and after pictures are devastating. And Donald Trump said that he is serious about running for a third term. All of that and so much more in this week's 100 video special. Yes, it is 100 videos on the channel. I am very unprepared for this. As you know, I'm currently in America, and we whipped to Target and we said, we will not record 100 videos and just have a nothing. This is for you, and this is, I don't know what this is gonna sound like, how loud it's gonna be, but 100 videos! Oh, how disappointing. This is gonna be the most disappointing 100 in, oh my gosh. And you know the air, the pump broke? We had to do all of these with our mouths. Anyway, let's stop the yapping and let's get, talk about a strong balloon. Let's get cracking. Okay, let's kick today's week roundup off with the situation that Speed has got himself into. Because if you haven't seen, Speed currently traveling China, just like he's done with countless countries before. But what's interesting about this time is that suddenly people seem to have a problem with it. You see, after he started speaking positively about China, saying that Shanghai, the city, looked amazing, the internet started going crazy. They started accusing him of being paid by the Chinese government to say these things, that he's spreading propaganda, and even that he's a Chinese spy. Speed. A spy. In fact, believe it or not, this got so big that Speed's cameraman, Slips, the man that follows him everywhere around the world, well, he had to make a statement about the whole situation to set it straight. He said, fact, amount of money iShowSpeed has received from Chinese government equals 0. Posting so it can be an actual source. Hi, I'm internal with iShowSpeed team. He is in China at his own expense and will likely take a net loss. Don't know how that's possible, but whatever. But what's crazy though is like, he wasn't accused of, spreading propaganda when he spoke positively about all of the different countries that he's been to prior to China. But as soon as he goes there and says it, well, he immediately gets cooked. And low-key, I actually wanted to talk about this because I feel like I can relate. As you all know, I went to China myself in December, and I made a video about Chongqing. And this video, I'm not gonna lie, it blew up. I think between Instagram and TikTok, it did over like 100 million, 150 million views. And so many people accused me of getting paid by the Chinese government. Why? Well, because people don't often go to China. It's just, wow, because anyone, vlogs Paris, wow, that's so aesthetic. Someone records in Japan and they're like, wow, they're so respectful, such an amazing culture. And then as soon as someone says something good about China, you're immediately a freaking puppet of the state. Like, come on. We're not on payroll here. We're just impressed that it has a freaking subway that's like as far down as 39 stories. Like a 39-story building. How could you not say that's crazy? Now, to be fair to some of the people, talking about the whole Speed being a Chinese spy, the freaking Chinese embassy actually tweeted about him, and they even posted a bunch of his videos saying like, the stuff that he was doing was amazing.
Hold on, wait, speak Chinese again.
欢迎来成都.
Hey, sweetie, it's working.
Wow.
Whoa! Hey, bro! I speak Chinese!
So yeah, on that front, it's pretty insane that you got the Chinese government, big up Speed. But I think that has more to do with how insanely popular he is rather than it being a Chinese spy sort of thing. I mean, for example, he signed up to China's version, Douyin, of TikTok, and within just 4 days, he had over 1 million followers. In fact, yesterday's stream, he had 1 million people watching on their YouTube version. I think it's Bilibili or some shit. But the wildest part about all of this, and I don't even think Speed even realizes it, but he's actually just stepped into some crazy territory. Not necessarily because of anything that he said, but more of like what he's shown. Because for decades, there's been this giant wall of propaganda separating China and the West. Both sides painting each other out as the bad guy. But now, partly because of social media, you got creators like Speed walking straight through that wall and essentially showing the world and saying to them, yo, this is what I'm seeing. And that breaks down everything. It doesn't matter if you're pro-China, anti-China. When someone just shows you a raw, unfiltered reality, it messes with everyone's narrative. And that's partly why people are kind of freaking out about this whole situation, because in just a few hours of live streaming, Speed has accidentally done more to challenge propaganda than most politicians have done in years. And that's pretty freaking powerful. In fact, I'm gonna say it. I mean, the misconceptions I had before going to China were pretty intense. Low-key, I was a little bit even scared to go there. But honestly, I can say, and this is not freaking propaganda, okay, shut up. Traveling there was genuinely awesome. In fact, the only real scary thing about China was realizing and seeing firsthand how advanced they are now. There was even this part in Speed Stream when he was going through this tunnel and he was like, oh, okay, chat, like we're gonna lag, we're going through a tunnel, and then it just never lagged. And he was like, what the flip?
Yo, China's crazy. We're underground and we're not lagging.
And this is exactly what I experienced when I went all the way down to some of these subways. Somehow, they still had internet through all the... I don't even know how they've done that. Oh, and their cars, man. Ugh. I mean, it's no secret, they have become the biggest producers and exporters of cars in the world now. You should see the graph. It is insane. And Speed went in arguably one of their best cars, the Xiaomi. But I've got to tell you, like, they have got so many different ones of these. Elliot and I had to make a 2-part series TikTok because we couldn't fit them all in one. And look, Elliot, he's a Tesla owner, so like, if anything, he's biased towards them. But even he said the cars that we drove in China are just so much more advanced than like anything we've experienced from Tesla. And the reason you don't even really see them around, especially if you're in America, is that there's like 100% plus tariffs on all of them. And if those things were taken away, a lot of car experts say they would come in and destroy. BYD's new factory is the size of San Francisco. Yeah, now this is starting to sound... Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Tiananmen. Freaking angering both sides now. No, but on a real note, like, some people act like admiring a country is the same as co-signing their government. You can appreciate a country without agreeing with their politics. I can say Dubai is futuristic without agreeing with their laws. I can say Chongqing blew my mind while also acknowledging Chinese censorship, and I wouldn't even be able to do my job if I lived out there. My standard of living would probably be better if I moved to China. But then I'd also have less civil rights, basically no privacy, or freedom of speech. Those two things can exist at the same time. Humans are complex, places are nuanced, but the internet just wants everything, black or white. You're a spy or you're not. So yes, it is possible for Speed to appreciate China without being paid by the government to do so. But then you can also acknowledge that Chinese spies do exist, and Chinese propaganda can be pretty rampant. Anyway, I could talk about this for too long, but point is, that's the story about Speed. Let's move on. Because also, in this 100th video special, I'm not sure if you guys saw, but I freaking got permanently banned on TikTok this week. 100% serious. And they banned my ass at 14.9 million followers. They didn't even allow me to get to 15. And I'm ready to spill the freaking tea. I think that's the right thing you say on this one. Because let me tell you, this whole situation, weird as hell. So for context, a couple of days ago, I wake up. It's about, 6 a.m. I'm working on this news about the Myanmar earthquake. I go on my TikTok, and right before I'm about to record, I get the message, your account has been permanently banned due to multiple guidelines violations. Problem is,
corn casserole.
I didn't have one. I had 0 before this notification. So multiple, bit strange. So I'm thinking, maybe it's because I'm in America. But then again, I've posted 2 videos at that point since I was here. The leaked government group chats, and then also the sinking submarine, which we'll get to later. But, before this conspiracies go crazy, neither of those got flagged. It shouldn't have been an issue. And the thing is, the notification didn't even give me, 1, a reason of like what video got taken down, what was the issue, and 2, it didn't give me a chance to appeal. I feel like I'm in China. So, long story short, hours upon hours, as you'd imagine, of stressing, like this is my whole career, just getting taken away. But eventually I got in contact with someone. They said, don't you worry, we'll get your account back for you. Once I do, I log on and this is what I see. Every single one of my videos got a community guideline strike. Every single one. And that's what it must have meant about multiple. How about you just rearrange every guideline possible you've violated? How's that possible? Yeah, it's pretty freaking weird. I don't know what was going on, but what we do know is that, what this means is that it wasn't a hack. That's what a lot of people said. This was in fact a moderation issue at TikTok. But if you think about it, what does that even mean, seeing all of this crap? For me, it's two options: human error or machine error. If it's machine error, then it's scary to know that their AI has the permission to unilaterally ban large, verified accounts without any human checks. That's crazy. And then on the other hand, if it was human error, let's just freaking pray it was error. What option is there to click to say every video is community guidelines struck? Maybe the human one's more terrifying. I don't even know. Point is, they're both as bad. But the craziest thing about all of this, Daily Mail. They put aside the rivalry for a day to post about it and say, free Dylan Page. Like I was locked up with some shit. And, felt kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie, Daily Mail. Don't you be nice to me again, alright? I'm sorry, Daily Mail. I love you, thank you, but I hate you. I hate you and what you stand for. Look. Target is not getting a good rating in my book. Anyway, point is, I'm back on TikTok, and Lord, I pray we do not go again anytime soon. YouTube wouldn't do that to me. Moving on. And we're moving on to, by far, the biggest news of the week, because the scenes coming out of Myanmar right now are genuinely heartbreaking and terrifying. Over 2,000 people have been confirmed to have died after the country was hit with an earthquake so powerful that the effects were felt as far as China and Thailand. This building that you're seeing collapse right now was all the way over in Bangkok. You see, at about 2 p.m. local time, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake rocked central Myanmar, causing roads to buckle, bridges to crumble, buildings and houses to collapse. And this has got to be one of the most terrifying things ever to experience. Some tourists, as you can see with the videos that Alex is graciously playing for you right now, they were trapped on the top of these high-rises while water from the pool, some of them were in the pool as they started sloshing back and forth and spilling over the side. And then, get this, that water that fell over the side then hit and swept away people on the floor. Insane. The Red Cross has said that electricity and network lines are down, which is making it hard to carry out humanitarian aid. People at the time of the earthquake could be seen evacuating buildings, running along the street, crouching on the tarmac at the airport, and rescue workers are saying that currently the damage is enormous. The rescue workers say that they are still desperately looking for people under the rubble, but it's 3 days later now, and so they say that there is little hope in finding anyone alive now. And because of that, the AP report that the smell of death is now filling the streets. Sorry, that's brutal, but it's gives you a harsh reality of what's going on right now. And also because of that, the death roll, which stands at about 2,000, is expected to still rise. Over in Bangkok, Thailand, that building that you saw collapse, well, reports say that around 320 workers were on the site at the time, and that around 20 of them got freaking trapped in the lift shafts. Imagine that. 17 of them have sadly passed away. And also a few days later, we've now been able to see the before and after pictures of some of the areas in the buildings that have collapsed. And Alex, I mean, there's not much to say verbally, but Alex, hit him with a montage, I think. And to make this whole situation even more devastating, Myanmar has been ruled by a military junta since a coup in 2021, meaning that the state controls all media and often restricts access to the internet, making it information coming out of Myanmar about the full extent of this whole situation very difficult. But also, there's an already existing major humanitarian crisis happening in the country right now. 3.5 million people already displaced, 20 million people in need of aid, and this is all before the earthquake even happened. So yeah, Really, really sad scenes that happened this week. But of course, as we know more, I'll keep you guys updated. Moving on. Also this week, the US is now arresting and deporting students. You want to know why? Controversial reason. You see, just a couple of days ago, surveillance footage showed 5 masked agents in plain clothing approach a student in the street. They say to her that she is under arrest, they cuff her and then put her in an unmarked car. As you'd imagine, she was terrified, and she is now being held in detention all the way over in Louisiana. And the thing is, Rumesa is not the only one. At least 6 international students have been arrested or deported in recent weeks for their involvement in either pro-Palestinian protest or anti-Israeli sentiment. Marco Rubio has just said that the US has now revoked at least 300 foreign students' visas.
It might be more than 300 at this point. We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa.
You're saying it could be more than 300
Sure,
visas?
I hope. At some point, I hope we run out because we've gotten rid of all of them. But we're looking every day.
One of these students, Mahmoud Khalil, just straight up disappeared. Despite him being a graduate student at Columbia University, a legal US permanent resident with a green card, and being married to an American woman who is 8 months pregnant, after organizing and participating in a pro-Palestinian protest on campus, he was quickly arrested and moved without notice from New Jersey all the way over to a detention center in Louisiana. His pregnant wife and lawyer, they couldn't even find him for a while. But here's what's interesting about this situation, because there's no public evidence that he ever committed a crime. In fact, even a White House official said the allegations here is not that he was breaking the law. So you might be wondering, why was he arrested? The Trump administration say that it's about national security. Under immigration law, the Secretary of State can revoke visas or deport non-citizens.
This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas. And this administration is not going to tolerate individuals having the privilege of studying in our country and then siding with pro-terrorist organizations that have killed Americans. We have a zero tolerance policy for siding with terrorists, period. Now, the US government accused Khalil and those like him of being radical foreign pro-Hamas students engaged in illegal protests. Now, it's also important to know it's not just about being pro-Palestinian. The US say that it's also a crackdown against anti-Israeli sentiment on university campuses. Now, some of the criticism that they are facing for this is questioning why the US is carrying out a crackdown on criticisms of another country, especially since the Trump administration is very much America first, and all you other countries, you need to sort your own problems out. Now, the defense against this argument is like Marco Rubio said.
We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. Because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave.
This is where it gets really tricky, because on the one hand, the government does have the right to deny visas to non-citizens for genuine security reasons. But on the other hand, critics argue that if this becomes a way to silence dissent, especially on controversial issues like Gaza and Israel, then it's not just an immigration issue anymore, it's a First Amendment one. So the question is, what do you guys think about this? Are these arrests justified, or is this a step too far? Moving on, because another wild story that happened this week, Trump just said that he is 100% serious about remaining president for the next 8 years. Not 4. In an interview with NBC this weekend, he said that he is not joking about running for a 3rd term and that there are methods to go around the Constitution that currently prohibits, as we all know, more than 2 terms. He agreed with the interviewer that said that one method would be for JD Vance to run as president with Trump as vice president. Don't think he'll like that status, but And then if JD Vance wins, he'd just pass it to Trump. Another problem there. People don't usually like to pass power around willingly if they've got it. He also said that there are other ways to do it, but when, the interviewer asked him, would you like to elaborate? He said, no. Just straight up no. Now, not only do experts say that this is, close to impossible to actually happen, but he would also be 87 years old by the end of his 3rd term. But the question is, what do you guys think? Would you like Trump to remain president until 2033? Or not? Speaking about Trump, though, he's actually had a busy-ass weekend. I mean, he started by announcing a 25% tariff on all foreign cars that come into the country. So that's 125% for China. And this is in hopes that Americans will stop buying foreign cars and buy more American-made cars. He said there's plenty to choose from. He then also switched up on Putin and he said that he is, quote, pissed off with him about how he's dealing with the whole ceasefire situation. He even threatened an up to 50% tariff on countries, not Russia necessarily, but countries buying Russian oil if Putin doesn't make a deal with him within the next month. He then obviously said the thing that we've already covered, president for another 8 years, and then he rounded it out on a chill Sunday by threatening to bomb Iran if they do not reach a nuclear program deal. He said, and I quote, "If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, and there will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before." Yo, imagine that as imagine you being able to use that as a threat. If you don't make a deal with me, I will bomb the
delicious corn casserole
out of you. And I can do it. But I think that's probably enough of the whole Trump and politics, eh? And before we get to news, just because I'm in America and it's the 100 video special does not mean that I should have had this tied to me all. How sweet. And that I look so innocent and peaceful holding a balloon. It doesn't mean that our sacrificial lambs will not be whipped to remind us all to subscribe. 3 sacrificial lambs right here. I have no wall to put you on, and I have no whip to whip you with. So, where can Alex put you in this world? Could you get a very gentle bopping? Maybe you could. Put him there, Alex. Subscribe! Oh my god, this feels lame. To the channel! I'm in Texas. I will get a whip, because I'm not doing that again. Pathetic. Missed out a great opportunity to have this. Alright, let's get to some rapid fire news. I also don't have a lot of space here. Sorry, I know I'm getting distracted, but I don't have a lot of movement. Just look at this is my setup. Here we go. I've got a chair on top of another chair, on top of here, and not the most sturdy of things. And here's my camera. Hey guys, look how tiny. Usually I have like a whole ass monitor. You've seen this setup. 6 people died after a tourist submarine sank off the coast of Egypt. And I know what you're gonna say. Submarines are supposed to sink. Not like this. There were about 40 people on board, all Russian nationals, but because it sank close to the harbor, luckily, and not out at sea, the crews managed to rescue them quite quickly. Now, we don't know exactly how the rescue mission was carried out because I don't know if it was down or not, but there was some footage from actually some of the people standing on the top, and it looks like most of them were able to get out to stand on the top of the submarine before it went down. 6 were not, unfortunately. The beef between the United States and Canada, it's just got even crazier because Canadians are now boycotting American vacations. Holidays, we would say in the UK. In addition to all of the previous things that they've been doing, like taking American products, taking them off the shelf, replacing them with Canadian ones. What do you think about that? No, I'm not gonna ask Alex, I don't. We're not ready for those opinions, Alex. Anyway, Canadians cancelling their travel plans to the United States. And it turns out this is gonna be kind of painful if they really do it en masse. Because according to data, they actually make up a pretty hefty chunk of international visitors for some places in the US. Even if it drops 10%, that means a $2 billion loss in spending and 14,000 job losses for America. So yeah, Canada's pretty pissed. Utah this week became the first state ever in the United States to ban the use of fluoride in their public water. And then also following that, other states including Florida and Ohio are now also considering the same. Ohio. Utah lawmakers argued that putting fluoride in the water was too expensive and that it had limited benefits for dental health compared to the risks associated. The Utah governor likened it to being medicated by the government. The protests in Turkey that we covered last week got freaking crazier because he even had Pikachu. I'm not kidding. Pull up. I genuinely thought this was AI when I first saw it, and it turned out to be real. That's not often that happens. Usually it's the other way around. Videos of Pikachu running away from police alongside other protesters has gone insanely viral online. There's definitely a freaking catch-em-all joke in there. It's rapid fire news. Nearly 1,900 people have already been arrested in these protests, and let's just pray Our brother Pikachu was not one of them. Over in the UK, a toddler was banned from daycare for being transphobic. According to a Freedom of Information request by The Telegraph on data from the Department of Education, a 3 or 4-year-old was banned from his daycare for being transphobic in the year 2022 or 2023. The official reasoning given was that he was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. We don't know if it was against another 3 to 4-year-old or an adult. I don't know which one would be more confusing for a 3-year-old. This sounds made up, but I promise you it's not. And it turns out that child was not the only one. At least 94 other pupils at state primary schools were suspended for homophobia or transphobia during that same time period. Lastly, I want to talk about this one, partly because the video just looks so insanely cool. In the first launch ever of its kind on European soil, an orbital rocket was launched from a Norwegian spaceport this week. Now, don't expect some crazy SpaceX, them catching the rocket and all that wild stuff, because just 30 seconds after launch, it exploded, dropped back down to the sea, massive fireball, but goddamn, it looked mighty beautiful doing it. Now, the German company behind the rocket said that this actually was a successful launch and that the aim for this whole first flight was just to gather as much data as possible. Imagine it's a very expensive test. Anyway, that's the video. I'm gonna stop the yap and get wrapping up. Love you guys. I will see you later this week for a second video, but until then, woo! I don't have a lot of space to move around here and go off into the distance. Alex, move my body. That's good enough.